I wanted to share sort of a historical piece that I found that was interesting to me and thought might be interesting to y'all as well. This is a story from Canada. So shout out to our listeners in Canada. How are you guys doing? Jesus,
I'm so sorry. That's it. They have to hate that by now.
Right after hearing that, they're probably like, I had no idea that those guys were Canadian.
Yeah,
could have fooled me.
This was like last week when we were talking about Nolans. People who say Nolans.
Nolans instead of New Orleans. Yeah.
They probably have a better idea of what this podcast is all about.
Oh, God, I'm sorry.
That's right. And most of them's names are Gord. So this is by Adam Bunch, writing for the Toronto Dreams Project blog. So this was the summer of 1855, and Toronto was growing very quickly. 40,000 people lived in the city at this point, and immigrants were flooding in all the time. With the very first railways starting up, the population would double over the next 20 years. But in a lot of ways, it was still pioneer town. There were 152 taverns and 203 beer shops. So you could either sit down or take it to go in a lot of spots. And also, there were lots of brothels in the town. And that summer, a touring circus show.
You want to hit those early in the morning, I hear.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Canadian bacon, know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you don't want the girl 6 hours into the shift.
Also, it's like working out. You know what I mean? You don't want to do it after you've had a long day at work.
That's where this energy drink comes into play.
Yeah. So that summer, a touring circus show from the United States called S.B. Howe's Star Troop Menagerie and Circus was in town for several sold-out shows. And it was a rare, big draw in the city that was just starting to come into its own. There were acrobats, equestrian trick riders, a bunch of exotic animals, big cats, elephants, even a giraffe.
The works.
And then there were the clowns. So,
why are you laughing already, Rivers?
Well, the clowns are funny, Sam. Just picturing them makes me smile. Just their big honking noses, their painted eyes,
their nightmarish features,
the trail of corpses they leave in the circus's wake. You know.
The way they devoured young children whole. Yeah, so funny.
The circus was done for the day on July 12th, 1855, and the clowns had the rest of the night off. So they decided to take advantage.
They decided to go jerk each other off in a corner.
Well, I mean, not entirely wrong. They decided to take advantage of the local nightlife. So they picked Marianne Armstrong's house, a brothel.
In costume or out of costume?
For the purposes of comedy, we're going to assume fully in costume. I think it's
at least some smudged on face paint.
Yeah,
at the very least.
For a traveling circus,
a red nose here or there.
It's traveling circus, limited access to showers. We have to assume they're still fully made up.
No, every person had one outfit back then, and that was it.
Yeah.
They were dressing like that all the time.
They've got the ruffles. They've got the polka dot, jumpers. They got the whole thing.
I'd be surprised if clowns changed today.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way they changed back.
It's funny to imagine they've taken off the clown costume, but they still have the makeup, and they're just wearing, a Dickies Union suit or something. Just walking around.
Say, stand-up open mics have a reputation for smelly people. Clown comedy venues. Holy fucking shit. Do those people not bother to bathe?
I don't know. I feel like people who apply makeup and shit are probably more considerate than someone who's been wearing, the same shirt for 3 weeks.
Yeah. It's true. So, they go into this brothel near the corner of King and Jarvis and settled in for a night of fun. This particular brothel was also the hangout for some of the men in the local fire brigade. So the
classic rivalry.
Yeah,
firemen and clowns.
Firemen versus clowns. It's about to go down.
That's a classic matchup.
Everybody knows.
Yeah.
The clown comes in with the seltzer gun, and the fireman just turns on the hose.
I see it on
That's
my
our thing.
I see it on my street. I live right by a firehouse, and they'll all be sitting out shirtless, all ripped and shit. They're all watching the fire truck and shit, with all suds. And then a group of clowns will walk by, and they're like, "Hey, fuck you, guy! What do you do? What do you do? How do you protect California?" Then they accidentally slip on a banana peel.
Yeah. I need
It's tense. It gets tense when clowns and firemen get.
20
I
of them jump
need
into
my-
a car and speed away. It's,
yeah. I'll pack into a tiny car, and then they yell "fuck you" at the firemen.
Yeah, there we go. Need my implement of destruction for this. I don't know where my mind was at. I needed that from the beginning.
It's been a while since you brought out the slide whistle.
I know it's been almost 2 weeks.
Firemen go down the fire pole. Clowns go up.
Oh, what would that sound like?
It would sound something like this. That's also what it sounds like when they're banging hookers in a brothel. Their eyes are spinning in concentric circles.
a different way.
it says jackpot on their eyes.
Instead of coming, they just like pie themselves in the face.
Third hand reaches out with a pie.
The
pull
third
down his
hand that is
pants,
connected to their cock.
When you put on the pants, it's like a Jack in the Box head.
Spring-loaded penis.
So, as you can tell, tensions are high. Clowns and firefighters hanging out at the same whorehouse there.
Oh boy, that's a recipe for disaster.
And I don't know what y'all know about the fire departments of the 19th century, but in those days, there was no central public fire department. Fire brigades were private entities. And if there was a fire, multiple fire departments would show up and would bid for a contract on a building that was on fire. And that is how, so somebody would come up and be like, I'll charge $100 to put out that fire. And another guy would pull in and go, I'll go 60. And then they would try to either, undercut each other and stuff. It's very similar to the Tom Green sketch, Undercutters, where he runs up on a pizza delivery guy with a tackle box full of toppings and tries to sell the pizza to the guy at the door for less. It was like that, but your house is burning down.
Way more dire.
Yeah. Talk about a pressure cell.
And that was standard everywhere. So anybody who's like, I wonder if there's a need to cut out the profit motive of a public service. It's
Sounds like a
demonstrative.
libertarian dream to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Literally, that's what this was. It
It's
was.
what I've always wanted.
Yeah, the market will decide whether or not your house burns down. So just a couple of weeks earlier, the Hook and Ladders, who are the firemen in the brothel, they'd arrived at a fire on Church Street at the same time as another brigade, and a fight broke out over who got to put it out. As the building burned, firemen rioted in the streets, and when the police showed up, they got pulled into the brawl too, and in the end, the firemen were charged with assault, and the battle became known as the Firemen's Riots. So we're like 2 weeks out from the Firemen's Riots, and now we've got a...
These boys are pent up.
Oh yeah, they're pissed. They're real pissed.
I always wonder what's the exact stats for when it becomes a riot. How many people have to be involved in a group fight before it's technically a riot?
Well, and is it a riot? Because technically something was already on fire, not as a result of the riot.
Like 5 pairs of firefighters, like all like rock'em sock'em robots, seeing each other, like punching each other in the face at the same time.
So no one seems to agree on exactly how the fight began between the clowns and the firemen. Some blame a particularly loudmouth clown.
No way.
Instigator clown.
He's the main one doing it.
Nice hose you got there, junior cadet.
Yeah.
You got to have that thing at the ready.
I know. I wish I had a holster, like, for,
What if like one of the firemen, when he was like fucking one of the hookers, he's like, I'm about to hose you down, and then just like one little salty tear. That's gross, but
some say the clowns cut in line at the brothel.
Yeah, I could see why you'd be upset about that.
you hear like the piano music, and he's like got like a newspaper with the eyes cut out on it, and he like steps in front of.
Oh, see, I was thinking you were waiting for the door to open, and then a car pulls up, and like 30 clowns get out. Like, damn it!
I never thought about old-timey brothel etiquette until just now. Like, how did that work? Was it like a deli where you like take a number?
Take a number.
And you have to wait, or like you have like
Clearly
one woman that everybody's waiting on the
Yeah.
one lady, I guess.
Clearly,
Like,
at this place, there was not a good system,
No,
or this would have sorted itself out.
Some say the clowns cut in line or knocked the hat off a fireman's head, but this much is clear. That night, the clowns were victorious, friends. So at least 2 of the firemen were seriously injured, dragged out of the brothel to safety as the hook and ladder crew retreated. So the clowns have won the day at the Battle of the Brothel.
They were lured in by what seemed to be a seemingly harmless flower, but in fact was an explosive.
It was actually a squirt gun. And
some were a squirt gun, some were explosive.
They went in for a friendly pre-fight handshake and were shot to the ground.
oh, yeah, there we go.
Who doesn't have a pre-fight handshake? All right, well, let's be careful and let's.
Good game, good game.
I
good
do
game.
respect you. Yeah. Even though you fucked my wife, I do respect you, and we will have a fair fight.
Clown bastard. Just like mumbling as he walks away.
So the clowns won, and for the rest of the night, they could drink and have sex in peace. But it wasn't over.
With each other, the prostitutes were just kind of looking on.
Yeah.
It's a really good show. Wow.
It was all silent and stuff too.
There's the monkey in the corner with the organ grinder playing the music.
What they didn't mention was they were all mimes, and this was a completely silent fight.
But yeah, it wasn't over. Those firemen had a lot of friends. And in those days, Toronto was still pretty much entirely run by a group of Protestant Tory religious fanatics called the Orangemen, which are part of the Orange Order, the Protestant psychopaths in Northern Ireland too. So, lots of fun going on in the streets there. They have their own gang that has a hold of the reins of power, so that's great.
It's like the Warriors.
Yeah, so they hung out together at the Orange Lodge and made sure that other Orangemen got all the important jobs in the city. And the police were pretty much all Orangemen, and the firefighters were too. So usually they focused on beating up Catholics, but they were willing to make an occasional exception for clowns. You goddamn papists and also bozos. All papists and bozos clear out of Toronto. The day after the fight at the brothel, Friday the 13th, by the way, a crowd began to gather outside of SB Howe's Star Troop Menagerie and Circus. An angry crowd. A solidly orange crowd. The farmers and merchants who had set up stalls near the circus were told to clear out because there was trouble a-brewing. So, this is like classic, just circus going on, and then, the old time farmers, they're just like, better get lost. There's about to be a clown fight. And then, I know what that means, mister. I'll get out. And he's just got a bushel full of tomatoes under his arms as he runs away. So word of the confrontation reached the police before the violence broke out, but of course, the chief of police, Samuel Sherwood, was an Orangeman. And in fact, years earlier, he had helped to organize a conservative attack on a Liberal Reform Party parade. So this is the kind of guy who just sees a parade and is like, well, we got to attack that. So
Can't have those.
So once again, clowns, parades, just any public expression of joy. It's got to be beaten down by these Protestants.
Not a lot going on. I mean, there's a lot of street fights.
And during that parade, by the way, they'd killed a guy. So when Chief Sherwood heard about the trouble down at the fairgreen and the circus, he dragged his feet for as long as he could, and then eventually sent a few men to check it out. But by that time, it had already started. The war between clowns and the Orangemen had begun. While the circus performers, clowns, and carnies were apparently able to hold the mob off for a while, couldn't last. So this is remember the Alamo? No, remember the Big Top. So people were throwing rocks, and eventually the crowd overwhelmed the circus. And when the hook and ladders arrived, all hell broke loose. So now the firemen are here as reinforcements. So they stormed the circus with picks and axes, overturned wagons, pulled down the tents, and set fire to the Big Top. And they beat clowns to a pulp. Circus folks ran for their lives. Some dove into the lake for safety from the flames. It was mayhem. Why is there not a movie?
Jesus.
Like, this is one of those stories that's just waiting to be told.
I don't know if there's much of a story. There's like two really good fight scenes. I don't know what else the movie's really about.
Sam,
stories are not about fights; they're about characters.
Look, the boat
is about love.
It's about love.
Ronald's correct. The boat hits an iceberg and it sinks. There's not much of a story, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I call it the Clowntown Sex Massacre.
Oh yeah,
Episode title.
That's true. There is a long brothel scene. Also,
That's what I mean.
movie
Lots
is
of
just
nudity.
One of the clowns falls in love with a girl at the brothel, and it's like, I could take you away from this town. Honk.
The youngest clown, yeah.
Yeah, the hot clown, the
young-
Timothy clown of Meg.
Yeah,
if you will.
Squeaky. Like Squeaky's like talking to you. He's like, I can take you away from all this. We can forget about this life and start anew in Montreal.
But first, I have to beat the shit out of this fireman.
And then, yeah, someone bursts into the door and he's got like a fucking like his like head's like shaved like a pencil because that's like a thing that clowns do apparently.
Yeah.
And he's like, Harry, there's a bunch of rowdy firemen out there. I mean, I'm seeing the scenes right
Thank
now.
you.
The movie writes itself.
Yeah, you see the vision.
just picturing like Bob Guccione's Caligula, but just it's all Canadian clowns. Like exactly the same movie. You just substitute clowns.
Yeah. Also, debunking the myth that all Canadians nice. I don't know. I don't think about
Not
that.
the fucking Protestant ones.
Not the
clearly.
clowns.
Yeah.
Not the clowns and the firemen.
Maybe check out some residential schools and we'll check up on that.
Right, yeah, that's
But,
true.
no, I do like how this is just the classic like jocks versus nerds dynamic that's
Yeah.
always been since the beginning of time.
Jocks v. theater kids,
It's-
right
yeah,
here.
it's like you got your burly firemen versus your clowns.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's
I get it.
every
Hey,
movie ever made, right there.
I think that it still stands to this day, where every kid wants to leave home to go become a clown, and we're all trying to defund the fire department.
So it took the mayor of Toronto to settle things down. He came to the fair green in person and personally stopped a fireman from killing a clown with an axe.
There's your climax right there. He's got the axe in the air.
But it's also
like
funny-
Pocahontas.
It has makeup on it, the axe.
How many of you already killed? No, it's just funny to me because I love Canadians. I really do. But they love rules. It's their favorite thing. So I love that when the mayor showed up, they were like, okay, I'll give it up. I won't kill him.
All right,
kill
this is
him.
getting a little
Okay.
out of hand. You're right. You're
man, let's
right.
get a little crazy.
Let's
That's
all relax.
Now a man with a cartoonish sash showed up.
All I can think is politicians used to do something. I
know.
They literally used to accomplish something in real time, and that does not happen anymore.
They used to ride up on a horse
Yeah.
to put it into disputes.
Although I could see the late mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford, stopping a clown murder. That seems like something
be
you would be
participating.
entangled
Yeah.
in. Yeah. So
Gerald Ford used to do the same thing. Local disputes in D.C., he'd go stop them.
So the mayor eventually has to call in a militia to take control of the situation. And once things had calmed down, the circus performers came back for their belongings and then ran like hell from Toronto.
Quick, get your clown shit. There we go.
There's no way them running like hell from Toronto doesn't have Benny Hill music behind
Oh,
it.
yeah. And the honking of their shoes as they run.
Very easy to follow them.
Yeah, I know. Where did they go?
Hear it from miles away.
Sneaking up on a clown. Child's
Very
play.
easy. Yeah.
So the police had done nothing, and they just watched. And even Chief Sherwood himself had eventually shown up, but could only claim to have stopped the rioters from setting fire
It
to
makes
the
it even
cages.
seem more like a dream, too. Chief Sherwood, like there's a Robin Hood element to
yeah.
this, too.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
This just seems like a fucking weird fantasy dream that
Yeah.
you wake up from drinking too many Alanahihus or whatever before you go to bed.
Yeah.
Too many Molsons, eh?
Well, I like that the only time he stopped them was when they were trying to set fire to the animal cages. And he's like, and it's like, oh, brother, where are there? It's like, oh, George, not the livestock. You could kill clowns all day. Those are, but wow, these giraffes are precious.
Giraffe milk is a delicacy.
Still to this day in Toronto.
Yeah, I have some with
Top
my
shelf
cornflakes
giraffe
every
milk?
morning, dude.
Ooh,
yeah.
So, of the 17 people who were charged in the riot, only one was ever convicted, and all of the policemen who were at the scene claimed that they couldn't remember any of the Orangemen who had been there. So,
Of course.
yeah. And that, as far as most people were concerned, was a cover-up, and they would keep on coming. A few months later, there was another Protestant v. Catholic riot, and Chief Sherwood's memory was again suspiciously fuzzy as far as the Orangemen who were concerned. And a few months after that, he was under fire again after freeing a suspect who had been accused of robbing a bank. So this guy, I mean, look, when you're you're orange for life, man. You know,
Why orange?
I think it's the Irish thing. Like the IRA selected the green half of the flag, and so the Protestant half selected the orange side. And because they started off in Northern Ireland, these are still the psychos that when you go, if you drive through Belfast, like the Protestant side of Belfast, they'll have their pubs, and hilariously, the Protestant pubs, because they're goal is to be unrelatable, will have Confederate flags outside and shit. And you're like, what the fuck? What? Like, and then someone explains it to you like, oh no, they're really into apartheid. That's their favorite thing.
Well, and speaking of parades, they have oftentimes a violent parade every year through Belfast where, the Orangemen, just to annoy the locals, will like go through the streets, and every year it gets very violent. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Good and normal things happening.
Yep. So after the guy, he lets him off for robbing a bank, there had been another mayoral election, and for the first time in 20 years, a Liberal Reform Party candidate won. City Council called for deep reforms, and they end up scrapping the entire police force. So they fired absolutely fucking everybody, and half of the old constables would end up being rehired, but Toronto was finally broken down of orange power, and the Circus Riot is the origin of the modern day Toronto Police Service. So this is where the current cops in Toronto trace their lineage to. It's like our previous version was so fucked up, we had to get a new police force going because of all the clown murders.
They tried to erase that from history because they knew it was that bad.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, we're not those guys.
Yeah.
We're the same guys, but like different.
Right. Well, they try to make it seem like, oh, we fired everybody, and then you read it, so it's like, oh no, they actually hired a bunch of people back too. Like it took 100 years to get all the Orangemen like out
under
of the
new management.
Yeah.
See, now I know how young Drake caught that bullet and ended up in that wheelchair.
Yeah.
Crime is insane up there.
Yeah, he was an acrobat once upon a time. It was shot off the trapeze by a Protestant militant.
And people say it's friendly and nice up there.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, shout out to our friends in Canada. I just came across this morning. I was like, well, that's perfect. That's my next movie I'm writing.
What is a Clown Town Sex Massacre?
Clown Town Sex Massacre.
There we go.
Take you to Clown Town, baby.
Yeah.
One-way ticket.
It's not pretty.
Yeah. That's right. 1855, the year Toronto got clown pilled.
The image on the cover on is like a squirting flower but with a condom over it.
It's just
The reservoir tip filled.
just pumping a Winchester repeating rifle, just being like, we're going bozo mode tonight, boys.
Bozo mode.